Welcome back to the series, new metal releases for March 13th. This is the weekly show where we take a look at some of the newest metal albums and singles dropping over the weekend and give them a quick review along with a score out of 10. Every week I try to cover a mix of bands from across the metal spectrum. Sometimes it's legendary bands that's been around for decades. Other times it's underground groups that you might have never heard before. And occasionally there are debut albums that could be the start of the next big thing in metal. This week's lineup is pretty interesting. We've got everything from old school death metal veterans to epic heavy metal, melodic death metal, grindcore, and some 80s inspired glam metal hard rock. There are also a couple of standalone singles that might hint at bigger releases coming later this year. As always, these are quick reviews, not deep dives. I'll give you a short introduction to the band, mention a few standout songs, talk about the overall sound of the record, and then I give it a score out of 10. And something new that I've been doing with this series is ranking the releases from my lowest score to my highest score. So by the time we get to the end of the video, we'll be reaching the albums that I liked the most, and my number one would be album of the week, obviously. So let's get started. Number 11, Angus McSix. Angus McSix and the All-Seeing Astral Eye. Starting off this week is the new album from Angus McSix. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because the band is fronted by Thomas Winkler, former singer of Gloryhammer. This project basically continues that style of over-the-top fantasy power metal, but with its own storyline and characters. Musically, it's very European-style power metal. There are fast drum beats, lots of keyboards, melodic guitars, and extremely high-pitched vocals. The whole thing is very theatrical and dramatic. One thing I will say that the album is very cheesy, but I think it's intentional. This band clearly isn't trying to be serious or dark. They're going for that fun, fantasy-driven metal style that feels almost like a movie soundtrack. One track I thought was really cool was I Am Angus McSix, which features the members of Rhapsody of Fire. It has the big fist-pumping power metal energy that fans of the genre will probably love. Another track that stood out was Dig Down. I like the guitar riffs in that one, and the bass tone was pretty solid too. Overall, this one didn't immediately grab me. It might grow on me with more listens, but for now, it stands at 7 out of 10, which puts it at the bottom of this week's list. Number 10, The Gems, Year of the Snake. So next we have the second album from The Gems, and the band features former members of Thunder Mother, and the sound here leans more towards classic hard rock and glam metal than extreme metal. Listen to the album, reminded me of some of those female-fronted rock acts from the 80s like Lita Ford or Vixen. Has that same kind of catchy, riff-driven style, a lot of melodic hooks. The title track, Year of the Snake, was one of the better songs on the album. It has a strong chorus and some nice guitar melodies. Another highlight was Gravity, which features a guest appearance from Tommy Johansson. That one had a really polished sound and some good vocal harmonies. If you like that classic glam or hair metal style, there's something definitely here for you. For me personally, it was solid, but not something I would revisit all the time. I'm giving it a 7.3 out of 10. I would say it's a fun, catchy, hard rock album. Number 9, Eternal Champion, Friend of War / YSL SL. Next we have a pretty interesting release from Eternal Champion. It's technically a 2-song EP, but the songs are massive. One of them is over 13 minutes and the other one is around 18 minutes long. First track, Friend of War, is a big epic heavy metal song inspired by fantasy literature. Musically, it reminded me of bands like Manowar with a grand heroic style. Song goes through multiple sections, lots of melodic guitar work and big dramatic moments. It definitely has that epic storytelling approach that fans of traditional heavy metal tend to enjoy. The second track is called YSL SL or Yissel. I don't know if it's pronounced that way, but it's different. It's an instrumental. It moves more into ambient and cinematic territory. It almost feels like dungeon synth or a movie soundtrack. It's not something I would necessarily listen to all the time, but it could work as background music, or it could work on a playlist if you're studying music or if you're doing work or like that. But my final score is 7.5 out of 10. Overall, cool release. It shows the band is willing to experiment a little bit. Number 8, No Mas, No Peace. Now we move into somewhat heavier territory. The band No Mas returns with a second album, No Peace. Short but intense grindcore record. The album is only 22 minutes long. It packs in 12 tracks. Most of the songs are very short and straight to the point. First track is mostly just strange static noise, but once the album gets going, it hits hard. The one song that stood out was Manic. It feels like classic grindcore with extremely fast drums and aggressive vocals. Another highlight was Leech. Had more of an old school thrash metal feel to the riffs. And then Spineless. Starts with a slower death metal groove before exploding into full speed grindcore chaos. Grindcore isn't usually one of my go-to genres, but I had a fun time listening to this one. It's a short, aggressive, no filler album, and because of that, I give it 7.9 out of 10. If you're a fan of grindcore, it might rank higher for you. Number 7, Monstrosity Screams from Beneath the Surface. Next we have a legendary band in the death metal world. Monstrosity has been around for more than 30 years. It's their 7th studio album. This was actually my first time listening to them, even though they're considered one of the classic bands from the Florida death metal scene. The music here is technical, but still very old school. There are lots of blast beats, complex guitar riffs, and some really impressive drumming. One thing I liked about the album is that it's not just non-stop brutality. Some of the songs slow things down and add melodic guitar parts and clean sections. A good example is the track The Atrophied, which has a really good bass sound. Another one I liked was The Thorns. It's a slower, more melodic track, but works really well because the band isn't afraid to change the pacing. Overall, this was solid death metal with strong musicianship. I'm giving it 8.3 out of 10. Let me know in the comments if you've been listening to this band for a while, and how does this album stack up against the others. Number 6, Morbid Death, Veil of Ashes. Another cool discovery this week was Morbid Death. The band comes from the Azores Islands of Portugal, and they've been around for over 30 years in the underground scene. The new album, Veil of Ashes, has a really strong melodic death metal sound, similar to the Gothenburg style. One track I liked was Evil Remains. It features harmonized guitars and deep death metal vocals. The title track, Veil of Ashes, has more of a triumphant melodic feel. And then there was Souls of Trauma, which had some really solid chugging riffs. If I ever do an episode of Discovering Metal Bands from Around the World series with Portugal, I'm sure this band will be one of the recommendations. Overall, it was a very good melodic death metal album and also earned 8.3 out of 10. Like I said with Monstrosity, let me know if you've been listening to this band for a while and how does it compare to the other albums. Number 5, 6 Feet Under, Unmistakable Smell of Death. Next we have a new single from death metal veterans, 6 Feet Under. The track is called Unmistakable Smell of Death. It's the lead single from the upcoming album Next to Die. Now let's be honest, a lot of people were expecting this to be terrible because of the band's 2020 album, Nightmares of the Decomposed. And we all know that was a bad album. But I'll be honest with you, the song was actually pretty good. Chris Barnes' vocals sound much better here. Jack Owen's guitar playing is really strong. The riffs have that classic death and groove style that made the band popular back in the 1990s. If the rest of the album sounds like this, it could actually be a solid comeback for a band. For now, the single gets 8.4 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of this, and do you think, is it that bad? Number 4, Gluttony, Eulogy to Blasphemy. Now we move into the top 4. Gluttony's new single, Eulogy to Blasphemy, is a love letter to the classic Swedish death metal sound. If you like bands like Dismember or Grave, the album will probably be right up your alley. The guitars have that famous chainsaw-style tone. The songs focus more on groove and atmosphere rather than technical complexity. One track I liked was All These Trees Are Gallows. It's slower and heavier, almost leaning into Death Doom territory. Another standout was Hung from Entrails, which has a strong mid-tempo groove. There's also Awoken in Autopsy, which again leans towards a slower, crushing style. Overall, the album mixes old school death metal, death doom, and even a little death and roll. It works really well. The final score, 8.5 out of 10, and I think I might be listening to this one some more. Number 3, Ravenspell, Obsidian King. So number 3 is the debut album from Ravenspell. This is part of the new wave of traditional heavy metal, along with their album Obsidian King. It's a strong debut. Sounds is a mix of classic heavy metal and power metal, similar to bands like Primal Fear or Hammerfall. One of my favorite songs was Onwards We March. Has a great guitar riff, epic metal feel. Another fun track was Warriors 9 to 5, which has chugging riffs and classic vocal harmonies. And then there's Hellstorm, which leans more towards speed metal and a little thrash. For a debut album, the songwriting is surprisingly strong. This one gets 8.7 out of 10. Make sure you check them out. I think they need more recognition. Number 2, Spirit Adrift, Eternal Celestial Energy. Now we reached the top 2 releases of the week. Spirit Adrift released a new standalone single called Eternal Celestial Energy. The band has gradually moved from doom metal towards a more traditional heavy metal sound, but this track feels like a blend of both styles. It's heavy melodic, has a really powerful atmosphere. One reason this stood out to me is because Spirit Adrift was one of the first underground bands I reviewed back in 2020. That was when I started my channel, so there's a little bit of history there for me. There are also rumors that the band might be calling it quits soon, which makes this release feel a little bittersweet. But if this is really part of the final chapter, it's a strong one. My score, 9 out of 10, and supposedly they have a new album coming out, and I'm looking forward to that. Number 1, the self-titled album by Fading Eon. So this is my favorite release of the week. It's their self-titled album, and it's a hidden gem. The band plays a style of epic melodic death metal and a mix of progressive elements and atmospheric soundscapes. One interesting thing about the album is that it only has 5 tracks, but the total runtime is 47 minutes, so every song is basically an epic. The opening track, Tree of Knowledge, immediately grabbed my attention, has tons of tempo changes and melodic guitar sections. Then there's Progressive Self-Destruction, which features some really interesting guitar tones and atmospheric passages. And the track, The Awakening, adds even more melody and dreamy, spacey elements. For me, it was the standout release of the week. It gets a 9 out of 10. I was honestly surprised more people aren't talking about this album. I think this one, you really need to check it out. So those are my picks for the new metal releases for March 13th. Ranked from lowest to highest score. There was a lot of variety this week, from grindcore and death metal to traditional heavy metal and melodic death metal. If you checked out any of these albums, let me know in the comments. Let me know which one was your favorite. If you want to see more episodes of the series, make sure you check out last week's episode. It should be appearing on your screen right now. Thanks for watching JC Rock and Metal Reviews. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you don't miss future reviews, and see you in the next one.